Okay, I am here at the Emmanuel Pitzer Farm here off of Reading Road and just beyond West Confederate Avenue here. And we're going to talk about this amazing and beautiful farm here in this video. It is privately owned. And I spoke with the owner, Nancy, and she gave me permission to come out here and take some pictures, shoot a video, and talk about this farm and its role in the Battle of Gettysburg. Now, Emmanuel Pitzer had a premonition that a battle would be fought in and around the town of Gettysburg, where he lived in 1863. So much of a premonition because, of course, this house that was standing here in Gettysburg sat just 3 hours west of today's Philadelphia, and then to the west side of it, it sat east of Pittsburgh. So this farm sat between Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, and directly south of the capital of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Pitzer had this premonition that not only were Confederates going to invade the North, but maybe even his own hometown. Unfortunately, before the battle commenced here, Emmanuel Pitzer died. But during his premonition of a battle, and being a wealthy man, he had his son, who was also named Emmanuel, to hide over $5,000 of gold and silver in a bake oven. Now, this bake oven once stood in a summer kitchen that sat behind the house that is no longer here. Pitzer himself, Mr. Pitzer, the father, died just before the battle commenced. Now, on July 2nd and July 3rd of 1863, General A.P. Hill established his headquarters at the Pitzer Farm. And on the night of the 2nd into the 3rd, General Robert E. Lee, General James Longstreet, and General Pickett met here outside on the farm, and more likely probably over here by the farm where the wood line is today, not far from where the amphitheater was. They met here to have a council of war and to make final revisions of the plan of the attack on July 3rd, 1863. Now, because this farm was near the direct rear and center of the line, of the Confederate line, it was also used to store Confederate ammunition. Here on July 1st and 2nd, once the ground was taken over. Just behind this farm, over in this direction, is where the Tennessee and North Carolina monuments are. So troops, like the 7th Tennessee, the 13th Alabama, actually passed by this farm on July 2nd of 1863. Now, when the Pitzer family returned here after the Battle of Gettysburg, they found the farm pretty well stripped of any materials, food, livestock, and of course the gold and silver that they had stored in the bake oven was gone. What remains of the farm is the center part of the house, which you can see here, the brick house, which has the Civil War plaque. And then as far as the barn is concerned, there's many believe that that is an original barn. At least the foundation appears to be, though it does appear to have been remodeled slightly on the outside with some modern materials, as does the house that has an addition on both the left and side and the wonderful looking columns. One thing that was told to me was that this farm is probably one of the last farms that is still used today in the same manner it was used in 1863. It was a ranch farm then, and it is still used as a ranch today. It's called Brown's Ranch, and you can find them online if you search for Brown's Ranch. It is probably one of the most beautiful homes here in Gettysburg. Actually has that southern Victorian style to it now, with the the columns on the front. It's beautiful sidewalks and flowers everywhere. After, of course, the war, post-war structures are a second house over here and a small little spring house behind it, and of course a man-made lake with an aerator in the lake that sits out in the back. This has been the Emmanuel Pitzer Farm, headquarters to A.P. Hill, and the site of a meeting between Robert E. Lee, Longstreet, and Pickett on July 2nd into the 3rd as they planned and edited their last day battle of attack. Okay, this is going to be the Emmanuel Pitzer Farm Part 2, and we are standing here on the back side of the Emmanuel Pitzer house, the historic Emmanuel Pitzer house, and it was here in this area, part of 225 acres over here in Pitzer's Woods. Of course, over here is the North Carolina monument, but over here in Pitzer's Woods today is an amphitheater, and it was there that General Lee, General Pickett, and some of the top Confederate generals held a council of war on the evening of the 2nd into the 3rd of 1863, and they decided at that point to launch Pickett's charge. That decision was made here at the Emmanuel Pitzer Farm. And as we walk across the back of the property, the original spring house that we talked about used to sit right over here by that tree, and that was the spring house that Emmanuel Pitzer, before the Battle of Gettysburg, actually hid his $5,000 worth of gold in. And of course, after the Battle of Gettysburg, as the Confederates retreated, Pickett's charge was a failure, and most of those troops, Sims and Barksdales and Pickett's and a lot of these troops retreating back into this area passed again by this farm. It is a possibility that gold was taken. It's a legend, it's a story, but it could have some truth behind it. I do want to point out this is a man-made lake. It wasn't here during the Civil War, but it is very beautiful. Has an aerator here in the center, and this farm is now for sale. And actually, the 225 acres of the farm and the house are selling for around $2 million, which actually isn't a bad price. This has been the Emmanuel Pitzer Farm Part 2.